Welcome to another Talkstock Small Cap interview. On today's show, we have James Rogers, CEO of Turmalina Metals. They are currently drilling their project in Argentina, which is one of the highest grade tourmaline breccias ever discovered. Make sure to read our disclaimer, and with that, let's jump in.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Talkstock's podcast. Today we're going to be sitting down with James Rogers, CEO of Turmalina Metals Corp. Hi James, how you doing today?
Great, Kerr. How are you doing? Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, excellent. You're speaking to us all the way from Portugal, I hear. How's that?
Yeah, I don't want to rub it in, but it's a beautiful sunny day here. So I've been lucky. I've been on the road for a few months, but I got 5 days at home, so I'm happy with that.
Well, thanks for fitting us in your busy schedule. Maybe you could just start off by telling us a little bit about your background, how you kind of got started in the mining industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started an exploration services company about 2007 in that time. And my background was really in grassroots exploration. I've worked all around the globe, cut my teeth up in northern Canada and then moved to Africa and then down to South America. But I fell in love with the deal side and the capital market side. And that was really what I love to do. So as I built that exploration services company, managed projects in 35 countries or something like this now. And that kind of transitioned me to get into exploration and then now into the capital market side for about a decade now.
Awesome. And how are you enjoying your current role as CEO of Turmalina?
It's been great. So look, I've known Bryan and several of the team at Turmalina for a few years now, and they asked me to come on last summer. So I came in September of 2022. We're looking for a CEO with a lot of energy, with a lot of exploration experience, but also that could tell that story and really bring some value to that narrative that Turmalina has been pursuing. So I've been loving it working with them so far. They're a great team. They've got some of the brightest minds for exploration, and Bryan and the team just have legends around them. These guys are some of the best mining guys for exploration to work with.
Yeah, I guess Bryan has built quite a reputation for K92, obviously taking it from, I think he funded it during a tough market at under 50 cents. And it's
there's some good stories about it too.
He never stops talking about it. Well, anyway, that's great. Obviously, that's a great partner to have. So he's president of the company?
Yeah, so he's president. So he was really the transition or a point person that brought me into this. And as I said, Bryan and I have known each other and worked together on a few things over the past few years. And when it came time to jump into that Turmalina CEO role, Bryan and Jonathan Richards, the CFO, came knocking, and I met everybody in June and kind of laid out what my action plan was and got up to speed on the company. And that's exactly right.
Excellent. So could you tell us a little bit about the story of how Turmalina was formed and what sort of inspired the creation of the company? I think it's got it's reviewed from reading a bit about it. It reviewed like hundreds or 100 projects in order to sort of land on these two for some specific reasons. Could you talk to us a little bit about how it got going?
Yeah, so look, the company was started in the mid 2010s, and the idea, this was on the back of the technical team from K92 Mining. So it came together and had this idea for a deposit style that had been lesser explored, called the tourmaline breccia. It's kind of a fancy geological term, but essentially this is a style of mineralization or deposit that's associated with often porphyries and these bigger things that we more typically explore for. But they're like little pimples or little like bursts of mineralization and gases and fluids off of some of these intrusions or intrusive bodies, which can have spectacular mineralization. So Doug Kerwin, Chico Azevedo, Bryan, John Lewins, essentially the team came together around this idea of a lesser explored for deposit, which was something that we all felt, or they felt at the time, could become interesting and perhaps pursue an economic scenario. The company reviewed dozens and dozens and dozens of projects. It landed on 2 projects. Initially, the San Francisco project, which is one of the highest grade tourmaline breccias in the world. That's in San Juan, Argentina, one of the better jurisdictions of Latin America, and certainly one of the hottest jurisdictions that you're seeing discovery and exploration in right now. Landed on this project, and since that's now grown 10 times in size, and we've acquired another project into Peru. When I came in, we were just kicking off a maiden drill program on the Peruvian project, and really the focus has now shifted from tourmaline breccias, but keeping the same roots or the same fundamentals of high grade, low capex styles of mineralization. In my exploration time now, after pursuing so many porphyries and bulk tonnage scenarios and looking at different types of mineralization around the world, I'm kind of tired of the pursuit in a junior mining company of a porphyry, which will have a 40-year mine life. It's going to take us 10 years to drill off and $30 to $40 million to get it into a resource before we get taken out by a major who can take it into that next level with a $2.4 billion capex. I think the junior model that we're pursuing is about value creation now, in the shorter term. I see that exploration value and discovery being huge, but for Turmalina, it's about something that's going to be, a shorter term to monetization, or a shorter term to actually realize some value for our shareholders.
Excellent. And so you guys are kind of focusing on these, if I heard you correctly, kind of these higher grade sort of breccia style. Sort of
breccias and veins. I don't want to exclude some of the other things.
Sure.
The real idea here is keep the grade high and keep it something that can be processed or worked with in a low capex or an attainable capex to bring it into production.
And what sort of tonnage are you sort of typically looking for? And do these sort of breccia style deposits, do they sort of happen in bunches?
Yeah. So I kind of touched on the origin of the tourmaline breccias that we're looking at, or have been looking at historically. They can be, and they're often located around a porphyry or some intrusive center, and it's all these gases and materials in the top of these, and they pop out into like a almost pipe-like inverted carrot-shaped tubes, which can have incredible mineralization. They often occur in fields. In San Francisco, we've got over 160 breccias located on that one project alone,
wow,
of which we've drill tested 10. One of them has exceptional grade. The rest have decent grades, but not really hitting that high grade model that we're looking for. In Peru, at Chanape, we've got over 50 breccias identified so far. What's important, and you bring up a really good question though, here, is that the tonnage. And when we think about, exploration, it's very important for me to think, what's going to actually become economic. We want to understand before we drill something off such to a point that it's cost so much money and dilution in the company that we're going to be able to get that critical mass of tonnage. So our exploration is driven by what are the economics possibly going to look like should this thing become economic. I mean, we're dealing with exploration. We're not dealing with economics today, but it's so important to think about what that's going to look like later in our exploration model. And what that means is we don't want to drill so deep on something that's this sort of size, because it's going to not be economic in an eventual model if it would ever pursue that. So the idea is efficient exploration, breccia camps that have got multiple mineralized breccias, and you stack up 2 or 3 of these pipes and you bring them and drill them down to a 200 or 300 meter depth. And now you're getting a critical mass of tons that could look something like 5-10 million tons at 1% copper. That becomes a pretty attractive target to me.
Yeah, wow, for sure. I know a lot of the things that we hear of these days are sort of more bulk tonnage, and you're talking like, a fraction of a percent, 0.2, 0.3% sort of copper. So
yeah, in San Juan, you've got NGX right now. This is a Lundin Group company. They've got some interesting stuff. So they've got a big porphyry. It's a nice size resource. It's at a 0.3% grade. It's a bit higher up in the Andes. I don't recall the exact elevation, but it's up in that Filo camp in northern San Juan province, Argentina. Look, they just put out news, it was 2 weeks ago now, on 60 meters of whatever double-digit copper equivalent. Absolutely incredible on their Portos Porto's Cliffs project, that carried that stock up 23% in like 24 hours. It took it from 700 mil market cap to 1.1 billion. You know, when you read into that result, what that they're describing the mineralization intercepted as breccias and veins. So you're dealing with a big porphyry, but now they've got a whole discovery around a new project, which is so exciting in this area. And the focus is on that high grade. And I think we're going to see a shift towards things that we can actually move towards supplying our metals crises that we have coming. We need more copper. We need a lot more copper to electrify the world. and if I'm an explorer and I want to do my part to contribute copper to that, that standard bulk tonnage mine. If I'm an explorer right now, I'm 3, 4, 5 years to drill it off. I'm 10 years to permit it and get it into production. Maybe it's 20, 25 years. That's not going to solve a lot of these copper shortages, but smaller, easier CapEx, easier to drill off. That's the sweet spot for us.
Great. And you guys have had some pretty eye-popping drill results yourself. Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, you've got an active exploration program right now?
Yeah. So we wrapped up 2022 with the first drilling program that Turmalina has done on our project in Peru. That delivered some great results. That was really a pure breccia play to us. San Francisco, our Argentinian project, has multiple styles of mineralization, which I'll talk about. But in Chanape, Peru, that is really about the breccias pipes and how we're going to string those together. Some of the results there are, they're exceptional with, tens of meters plus of 3-4% coppers. Like some of the highlight results. Here, I'll just pull them up right now. The better ones, and I love these numbers because they're pretty impressive. But like 40 meters of 3.1% copper equivalent, which is from 60 meters, so it's near surface in this tube.
Wow!
And there's a pretty spectacular mineralization, both as it's coming out in core. So visually, it's really nice. It's beautiful, but as you go through it, the grades really start to show up. That's got almost 4 grams of gold in it, and in that case, that was about 0.5% copper. But some of these better holes are pretty impressive. In San Francisco, again, that's the highest grade breccia that's really been identified, and you're seeing like 109 meters of 5.5% copper equivalent from surface in oxides.
Wow.
Bear in mind, this is a cylindrical body. It's vertical. It's kind of like an oblong straw shape, but it's 250 meters wide, and that mineralization carries down to 500 meters where we've drilled it to.
And are you guys drilling that right now?
So our plan there is about this critical mass. We don't want to necessarily drill that breccia pipe itself deeper. We've drilled it to a depth where we believe that we've created enough value with the drill bit on it. The goal here on this project is more tonnage elsewhere. The idea here is let's test other breccias that we've done some surface work on, that we've identified mineralization on. Let's test some vein systems that we've tested on surface that have showed us some grade. And we've now got 8 targets that are prioritized. That'll be, drilling is kicking off now, basically in the next week or two here. Drill's on its way to site, and it's going to be stepping through 8 previously untested targets with on surface.
Excellent. Well, we've jumped around a little bit. Maybe provide a bit of an overview on your current projects, and then what your exploration plans are going to be with this sort of season. Or your announced program that you sort of announced, I guess, at the beginning of March. Maybe you could just walk us through that.
Absolutely. So the San Francisco project is located in San Juan. It's a few hours drive from the capital of San Juan, same name. It's located at a pretty approachable elevation in the Andes, averaging around 2,700 meters. That project was initially centered around the San Francisco de los Andes breccia, one of the highest grade, and that's been documented so far. That grew 10 times to now be a 40,000 hectare land position in this jurisdiction, which is one of the largest land holdings of any contiguous project in the San Juan project now. We've got multiple high-grade breccias, one that's returned ridiculously high-grade numbers. And then several intrusion-related, several porphyry targets, and several vein targets that are all there ready to go. 8 targets will be seeing 12,000 meters of RC drilling, which is starting now. We completed financing to be able to proceed with that program just earlier this year.
Excellent. And then your other property?
So in Peru, the Chanape project is located at a bit of a higher elevation in San Francisco, and that sits up at an average of around 4,500 meters. What that means for us is that it brings some seasonality to the exploration. So we can't drill there as easily year round, not in the exploration phase anyway. It's just a little bit rainy, roads become a little bit softer. So rainy season has just ended there now, and we're preparing to kick off a 5,000 meter drill program. That project's sitting just under 700 hectares in size, which is still an adequate size and a good size project with the over 50 plus breccias that have been identified at surface there. We've only drill tested all with positive mineralization in our remote exploration campaign. We drill tested 6 of them. So we've got a lot more targets to move through, and all the targets that we tested there have delivered positive results and really high grade results so far.
Excellent. Well, I guess we can look forward to that. So are you actively drilling anywhere, or you've just mobilized?
Yeah, we're just mobilizing into San Juan. So drill will be turning here hopefully in April, in the next couple of weeks. In Peru, we'll be mobilizing in late May, early June. That's the idea, get the drills turning there. So we'll have staggered programs, which should generate a pretty continuous flow of news for us as well, leading up to the end of this year.
Excellent. So it's something for us to kind of look forward to if we're considering accumulating a bigger position here now, is there should be some constant stream of sort of news over the next several months.
Yeah, that's been a big thing that's been needing a lot more focus for the company as well. And that's one of the mandates of myself as the new CEO, is to keep that communication flowing to our shareholders and to the market.
Excellent. Well, you're starting to do a good job there.
Hopefully.
And you touched on it a little earlier that you just completed financing. So are you fully financed then to meet the obligations for this upcoming exploration season?
Look, so we can get through the exploration plans that we have here right now. There's a lot of sensitivities on exchange rate being a Canadian company right now. So we definitely have to think about not only into US dollars, but then also into Argentine and into Peruvian soles. So there's a few considerations on that. I do think that, with some exploration success on these undrilled targets for San Juan, we'll definitely look to see what the market's appetite is. But at this point here, I think this is a great entry point in the market. This is below the financing pricing that we just did at 45 cents. That came with a warrant on it, sitting up in the 50s, which should bring in some cash here as we hopefully have some continued market response to success as it comes.
Excellent. And could you just do a high level sort of overview? Excuse me. Could you just do a high level sort of overview in terms of the cap structure? How many shares are out? Market cap today?
Yeah. So market cap today is sitting around high 20s, 27 million. 52-week is 22 to 60 cents thereabouts. We're sitting with 78 million shares issued now, about 5.5 million warrants, all related to the most recent financing, fully diluted with options. That brings us up to just over 90 million shares on a fully diluted basis.
Great. Thanks for that. If you could just break it down, what would be some of the key upcoming investment catalysts for investors here? When do you think your first sort of drill assays will be coming out?
Yeah, so first drill assays, we're looking at pretty good turnarounds on lab time in Argentina right now. With the drill gets turning here in the next couple of weeks, we're probably a month and a half to 2 months from that to getting those first assays out. I do plan to update the progress of the drill as it goes and highlight some of the surface work that's been going on to support additional targeting on these assets, especially in San Francisco, where we've got a pretty big surface campaign that's going on at the same time as the drilling kicking off.
Excellent. Well, thanks for giving us an overview on that. You kind of touched on it a little earlier, kind of, what's going on with the electrification, of the economy and all this sort of new demand for metals. What do you think about sort of the copper market here? You guys are sort of copper gold, sort of story. Robert Friedland and others have been sort of ringing the alarm bells here with lack of supply. Oh my God, the LME is going to run out. What do you think sort of about sort of the metals in the copper market here?
Yeah, I touched on that a little bit. I mean, I think the demand for copper is grossly underperceived right now. I think the amount of copper we need to transmit electricity, whether it is in, the Tesla or the power lines or whatever and however we're creating power, that's the constant. And really, copper is the best material to be able to do that. I do think there's a shortage coming with some of the supply being either terminated from end of mine or political challenges or other. And I do think that it's our job as an exploration company right now to be thinking about those macros of the metals market. Now, for the model that we're pursuing, again, I want to reiterate this, it's so important. We're not about big bulk tonnage exploration scenario. We'll create value through scenarios like that for our shareholders should they arise within our projects. But the focus here is about how can we get metal to market faster as an exploration company. And that means first we have to prove it, and then we have to analyze it, and then we have to finance it or transact it to get it to market. So our goal here is to be able to react as fast as we can with our exploration to be able to bring that metal into something that is a feasible reserve or supply point for that overall metals market.
So do you have any trips sort of coming up where you're going to be on site?
Yeah, so look, I just came from Argentina 2 weeks ago. I came out of Argentina as we were just finalizing the drilling sequence and the targets there, getting all the roads built. I then did the first marketing tour for Turmalina last week, just through Europe, which was really good. I'll be heading back down to site both in Peru and Argentina in about 3 weeks from now, so in May and into June, as the drill gets turning and things get moving. The goal here is, again, just empower the team. One of the important parts of the team that I haven't gotten a chance to talk about actually is Chico Azevedo as well. Chico's one of our directors and our exploration manager. He was exploration manager for Gencor, Iron Gold, and was a big part of the Salares Norte discovery, which is a pretty significant discovery made in Chile in the recent time. His approach to exploration and integration with community is really the backbone of our license to operate and how we operate. He respects dollars in the ground. He himself is Latino from Brazil, and he's worked all over South America and Latin America for a number of decades now, and continues to deliver. And he's fully engaged with us in managing our exploration. And it's his team on the ground that's really driving that boots on the ground approach to exploration.
Well, that's excellent. Sounds like a good team, some good experience. Sounds like you're pretty busy here, hopping around. Is there, just before we kind of wrap up, anything else that you kind of want to share with us? Any last sort of comments?
Look, I think you've asked a couple of really good questions, and hopefully it's given your audience a bit of a chance to learn about who we are. I don't want to say we're rethinking exploration, because it really is simple exploration. The idea here is don't overthink it. Find out if we've got something there as fast as possible. We've already got some great discoveries and great results made in some of the best jurisdictions in the world to make them in, like San Juan. And the goal here is using a team that's had a track record of discovery and performance to keep it simple and just be methodical. We're going to move through these targets and we'll get to a critical mass. And that's the idea here, is let's move this all forward.
Well, that's excellent. Well, hey James, we're going to be we're going to be watching very carefully here as the news comes out. We're looking forward to that. Obviously, with seems like we're in a metals environment here. A lot of the miners are starting to move up. Hopefully, we'll start to see your stock move up as we get a little closer to some of these catalyzing sort of events. Wish you all the luck with it, and hopefully, you can come back and update us on how your exploration season has sort of been going.
I'd love to jump back on and give a short update as we get some results in, and yeah, I'm really excited to see what this program is going to bring for the company.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.